Hey guys, welcome to week 3 Snoozers and Losers. We are ready to get started. We're going to cover quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and then just overall Snoozers and Losers. So let's hop into it. We got a couple quarterbacks to discuss. Let's start off with Justin Herbert against Kansas City. He's at Kansas City this week. Kyle, what do you think about Justin Herbert at Kansas City this week?
Shoot. I mean, he's going to have to throw, and he's got Keenan Allen, and then Mike Williams has really turned it on this year, the last couple weeks. So, I think he's going to have a pretty good week at Kansas City. A bit of a shootout, I think.
Cool. So you got him as...
Oh, snoozer. Yeah.
Snoozer.
I forgot the terminology. My bad.
Yeah, there you go.
I got to say it. You got to say it with your mouth. Say it with your chest.
You got to say it, man. I got to know where to put him,
Yeah,
Tony, what do you think? Tony, what do you think about Justin Herbert at Kansas City this week?
Yeah, I'm all over Justin Herbert this week. Looking for him to get back on track in fantasy. He's a solid QB1 in what Kyle said could be this could be a shootout this week with Kansas City. I'm not sure where Vegas has the over/under on points, but I expect Herbert to throw plenty of passes this week. The volume's going to be there. Definite snoozer.
Yeah, you have to throw to keep up there, and that will force some points. I like it. Alrighty, moving on to our next one is Daniel Jones against Atlanta. He's got Atlanta at home. Tony, what do you think about Daniel Jones against Atlanta?
I like Daniel Jones this week versus Atlanta. They've got a soft pass defense. He looked pretty good on Thursday night against Washington. He does give you a little bit of a higher floor because he has that running game going. Gives you that running yardage. But I do look for him to have a good solid fantasy game this week. He's one of the quarterbacks who typically is in the lower portion of the rankings, but I definitely put him in my snoozer column.
Cool. Kyle, how about you? Daniel Jones against Atlanta this week?
Yeah, he's a loser for me. I'm not starting him until bye weeks hit. I mean, he's just, I don't know. He's not that good. He gets some rushing yards, which helps, but as Barkley gets healthier, that'll happen less and less. So I'm not a Daniel Jones guy. Loser.
I wouldn't call myself a Daniel Jones guy. And certainly if you drafted Daniel Jones, you probably drafted him as your number 2 quarterback.
Or 3.
Yeah, number 2 or number 3, kind of looking for someone with a little bit of upside. But if you're looking at you guys, maybe you did a 0 quarterback and you didn't wind up with one of these top 6, top 7 quarterbacks, I do expect Daniel Jones to put up respectable numbers this week against that Atlanta defense. Galladay getting back on track, Barkley's getting back on track. So give us your decision.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to step in here and decide this. So Daniel Jones, not a good real life quarterback, but I could see him putting up some fantasy points this week just because of the matchup playing against Atlanta. He is at home. That offense is bound to start getting it together at some point. They're already 0-2, so it'd be hard to see him drop a third one right there in a row to Atlanta. I see Daniel Jones stepping up a little bit and probably rushing it more than he has been, so that'll be good for fantasy. So never thought I'd really say this about Daniel Jones, but I think I have to put him in my snoozer column as well. Gosh, that feels weird to say. And
this show's a farce. I won't be part of it.
Well, let me just give you 2 examples, Kyle, and see if you agree or disagree, and we can move off of Daniel Jones. But I'm starting him this week over Joe Burrow. I'm starting him this week over Ryan Tannehill, and those are the types of guys that
Tannehill's playing against Indianapolis.
See, I disagree on Tannehill. I think Tannehill has a bounce back week this week. Burrow plays at Pittsburgh. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that one.
And so those are the guys. If you've got Daniel Jones as your number 2 because you went 0 quarterback, you could have been stuck with a Joe Burrow or some guy. Ryan Tannehill was a sneaky guy going into the season. Anyway, so that's kind of where I'm talking about in that range.
Yeah, I mean, if you're desperate and have to, you don't have a choice, right? If you've got somebody like that, but if I have a better option, he's definitely a loser for me. I'm not.
I like him. I like him in.
I didn't even draft him anywhere, honestly.
Did anyone draft him anywhere? They just picked him up after the draft.
Like he's maybe your third QB in a super flex, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably about it.
I'm checking his value in DraftKings if you do DFS. So
I bet it's pretty good value this week. I mean, I bet it's a low amount and good value there.
That is somewhere I would consider playing him, is in DFS. If you can find somebody with a good matchup like that's super cheap, like those are the kind of values you look for in DFS. So that's, I guess in that kind of situation, I might actually look at starting him. But
okay,
Tony had to poke around. Tony had to poke around until he found that right angle.
I know, right? We just gotta play enough scenarios out until I'm finally like, okay, yeah, in that scenario, like
unsportsmanlike conduct.
If the other 31 starting quarterbacks in the league all broke their legs and he was the only healthy one, would you start him then? Yes. Then you agree with me, and he is a snoozer, sir. So
whatever it takes. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Win at all costs. Cutthroat.
All right, guys.
Next guy.
Let's go ahead and move on to running backs really quick. Our first running back is going to be Jonathan Taylor playing at Tennessee. Kyle, what do you think about Jonathan Taylor at Tennessee?
Jonathan Taylor has not showed me a whole lot through 2 weeks. Obviously, if you drafted him early, so you're starting him. But for me, he's a loser. Like, I just don't think he's going to do this year, all year, much less this week, what you want him to do. So, yeah, I'm going to keep him in the loser column.
Okay, Tony, what do you think about Jonathan Taylor at Tennessee?
Do we know? Do you know the status of? I'm trying to find right now. I'm trying to look it up here as we're kind of doing this. Didn't know who you were going to throw out there, and so I'm curious. Do we know the status of Wentz? He's definitely out, right? Because I know he has a double sprained ankle.
I don't know if they've said if he's definitely out or not yet.
I haven't seen anything that says definitively yet.
Yeah. So I mean, if that's the case, which I think is most likely, I'm definitely a little bit lower on Jonathan Taylor than even Kyle might be. They stack that box, Wentz not back there to keep the defense honest. I know that Tennessee has struggled a little bit with the run defense. So Jonathan Taylor could make a nice play. I just, with the way they're utilizing him, especially PPR, I'm putting him in my loser column with Kyle. I mean, obviously you're starting him, but if
you're not happy about it.
Well, you might not be happy about it, and if you're looking at some of your other positions and you're deciding between receivers or flex, maybe you're trying to pick a guy who gives you a little bit more upside, because you need to try and make up for potential loss in those points that you're expecting Taylor to score.
Yep, that's tough. Cool, double loser there. Okay, I'm going to hit a soft spot for Tony here. Next running back is going to be Antonio Gibson at Buffalo.
So,
yeah. Tony, I'll go ahead and let you start that one off really quick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking with Antonio Gibson. I think that he's a guy I'm going to continue to ride. I know that they are incorporating McKissick more into that passing game, but I know that their long-term plan for him on the season is to kind of morph him more into that Christian McCaffrey type role. So I'm still very high on Gibson on the season. I'm putting him into my snoozer column. I know that people are a little bit panicked about Gibson. We talked about him last night after the Monday night game, but I'm not quite ready to take that jump yet and slide him over to my loser. Gibson's is definite snoozer for me.
I'm gonna make you take a different approach to this. Week 3, not the season. What do you think about him just in week 3?
Yeah, I like him. I
Even
think
in week 3? Okay.
even in week 3. Yeah,
Okay.
even in week 3, I think
Just making sure. You said season there for a little bit, and so I was just making sure this week against Buffalo that you felt good about him this week.
I feel good about Antonio Gibson. I think he's still going to get the volume. He's going to be heavily incorporated in that that offense. He did kind of looking here right now. Just wanted to kind of confirm he did have 23 touches last week. I mean that's RB1 type volume. So I'm trusting Gibson and I'm sticking with him against the Buffalo defense. I'm putting him in my snoozer column.
Perfect. All right, Kyle, what do you think about Antonio Gibson at Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe not the best matchup, but for the sake of saving time, I'm just going to say I agree with everything he said 100%, and he is a snoozer for me as well.
Love it. Okay, guys, that covers our
I'm
running
also
back.
predicting that we see Antonio Gibson kind of get more involved with the passing game this week.
Yeah, they're bound to at some point. I would agree with that. All right, guys, moving on to the third quarter here. Wide receivers. Let's first talk about Sterling Shephard at Atlanta. I know we talked about Daniel Jones earlier, and his rushing ability and everything, but what do we think about Sterling Shephard at Atlanta? Kyle, let's go with you first.
I'm going to have him as a snoozer because, honestly, Sterling Shepard's already been killing it. Galladay's probably going to start getting a few more looks here too. So, but I think that's only going to help. It might even help Daniel Jones more. Who knows? But I really see Sterling Shephard continuing kind of just crushing it on the field against Atlanta's defense this week. So yeah, he's a snoozer for me.
All right, Tony, what do you think about Sterling Shephard at Atlanta?
Absolute snoozer. Daniel Jones seems to really love this kid. Kind of already giving you my feedback on Daniel Jones this week against Atlanta defense. Their secondary is questionable, and Sterling Shepard's been just a target monster so far this season. He's also been incredibly efficient. So I think I'm trying to find his stats now, but I'm pretty sure based on what I'm seeing here, he's 16 of 19. So those are pretty good numbers. That's a high efficiency percentage, and I would expect him to keep that up and continue with that this week against that Atlanta defense, like I said, which is really suspect against the pass.
Perfect. All righty. Well, moving off of Sterling Shephard, then let's talk about Deebo Samuel against Green Bay. Had a great first week there. Tony, what do you think about Deebo against Green Bay?
Yeah, I mean, I think Deebo's a snoozer for me. I don't see anything changing in that offense. They're going to continue to make him the focal point in that passing game. They're going to force him the football. I think that we're going to see Shanahan continue to rely on that running game. But Deebo Samuel is definitely going to get his. So absolute snoozer for me, week 3.
Cool. Kyle, what do you think? Deebo Samuel against Green Bay.
Yeah, I think he's a snoozer too. Like Tony said, they're not going to change that. Like as an Ayuk owner, it kind of crushes my soul a little bit. But I mean, until Deebo does something that gives him a reason not to, not to be out there getting all the targets, just like a target vacuum. I mean, he's even crippling Kittle's value at this point, which crushes my soul even more. But clearly Garoppolo trusts Deebo, and I don't see a whole lot changing there at all. So I'd keep rolling Deebo until the wheels fall off.
Perfect. I feel like you guys are colluding to shut me up this week, which is probably
harder.
best for everybody.
It's not a bad plan.
You want to shorten up your segment?
You want to
agree on everything?
One more word out of you. All right, guys. That concludes wide receivers. Let's move on to tight ends really quick. And my first tight end for you guys is Jonnu Smith against New Orleans. Tony, we'll let you start off on this one. What do you think about Jonnu Smith against New Orleans this week?
Yeah, I'm just not big on Jonnu Smith. I think his role has changed in the New England offense. We're seeing him being utilized differently than he was in Tennessee. And as long as Hunter Henry is healthy and remains an active part of that passing offense, I just don't think you can trust him. So, it's too bad, you can't just take the New England tight end position because
Yeah.
they kind of, work against each other. And so I for that reason, I've got to put him in my loser column. I just can't trust him.
Yep. They almost treat that tight end position just like they do their running back position. You just can't trust their positions a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
that's Belichick.
Yep, that's Belichick. And so, Kyle, what do you think about Jonnu Smith against New Orleans?
It's also a lot like they did with Schultz and Jarwin in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're killing us on that. Everybody thought Jarwin was going to be a big sleeper this year. I loved Jonnu Smith preseason. I thought he was going to come in and be the big receiving tight end, and he's just not. So, yeah, he's a loser for me too until he starts showing he can produce numbers on the field. And like Tony said, as long as Hunter Henry's healthy, I think they're just going to cannibalize each other, and there's really no way for one of them to stand out. Unless, I mean, you might get one or two big fluke plays every now and then, give like a good big day now and then, but I'm definitely not starting them.
Yep.
Not right now.
Cool. I agree with that. Alrighty, guys. One more tight end here for you, and this one's going to be Tyler Higbee against Tampa Bay. Kyle, I'll let you go first on Tyler Higbee.
Tyler Higbee against Tampa Bay. Honestly, I'm not even 100% sure. And this is my unpreparedness because I don't, I guess he did okay week 1, but he didn't do anything this week. I'm not excited about Tyler Higbee. And I'm not, they got some pretty solid linebackers there in Tampa Bay. So I'm going to say loser. I don't trust him, especially when you're looking at, okay, I have to say this. I know we're not looking at rankings, but they have him ranked one spot lower than Gronk on FantasyPros, and that is completely absurd to me. So, yeah, he's a loser for me. I don't trust him yet. He's had one good game. He screwed me last year every week after I drafted him, and then this year he's only had one decent game, and then he screwed owners again. So, loser for me, yeah.
All right. Bitter ex-girlfriend there. Jeez.
I am bitter, okay? I'm a bitter bearded lady.
All right. Tony, what do you think about Tyler Higbee against Tampa Bay this week?
Yeah, so Higbee's an interesting guy. It's funny. My younger son, who's 16, is doing fantasy. This is his first year doing fantasy, and he drafted Higbee as his backup. And so we flipped him after week 1 because I just wanted to sell high on that guy. And so we actually got a real good trade out of Higbee. We were able to pick up Kyle Pitts in a deal. So it was there were multiple players in there, but Higbee and Pitts were the two focal points. Well, I think somebody saw the Thursday night game. They saw Higbee have look really sharp. Kyle Pitts, the uncertainty after week 1, and so that's just the way some fantasy owners are. They panic after 1 week. Higbee this past week it kind of showed a little bit more of how I think and I think how we're going to see them utilize him on the season. He's going to have some games where he'll put up some points, but what concerns me about Higbee, and you hear me talk about this a lot, one target last week. There's just isn't any potential for real any type of fantasy production if you're dealing with one target in a game. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that he is not a real focal point of that offense, Cooper Kupp seems to be the darling so far in fantasy at the receiver position. I do expect them get Robert Woods more involved, but Higbee seems to be more of an afterthought. So not real big on Higbee. I'm going to slide him over to my loser column.
Alrighty, a lot of consensus rankings tonight. I guess we'll call these rankings snoozers or losers as rankings, right?
Tampa Bay is tough against the tight end too. I mean, they've got some solid linebackers on that team. They're a little bit weaker against the receiver position, so I think that's where the Rams will look to kind of try and exploit that defense more in the passing game. And you saw Dallas do that, week one.
Yep.
Really kind of lock down that line and utilize a lot. Amari Cooper went off. So I think that's kind of what more I would look for this week, getting that type of matchup.
Yep. Definitely. So Cooper Cup fans rejoice. Anyways, so cool. Well, that concludes all of our positions. Now, guys, I want to take this into what we'll call overtime.
I like it.
This is a non-debate session. You just get to choose your snoozer for the week and your loser for the week at any position that you see fit. You get one of each. And to decide who gets to go first, since it is overtime, we'll flip a coin. And Kyle, your heads. Tony, your tails. Seems to be fitting, right? So, okay,
sure.
I'm gonna flip this. Let's see who goes first. Kyle will go first. It is heads. So, Kyle, give us your snoozer of the week.
I'm glad that worked out so well because we were just talking about the Rams versus Tampa Bay, and it actually is a perfect segue. My snoozer of the week is Robert Woods because of that weakness against the pass. He's still getting the targets. He's not getting the points that Cup is, but at some point, those targets are going to start turning into points. And I think this week in a potential shootout with Tom Brady, Stafford gets his boy Robert Woods some fantasy points. So that's my snoozer of the week.
Perfect. Alrighty. Tony, let's go over to you real quick. Who's your snoozer of the week?
Yeah, I really, and this we talked about earlier about DFS. This might be a good guy to target on DFS. I'm not sure where his value's at, but the guy that I really love this week as kind of a snoozer is Tyson Williams with the Ravens. Did you watch the game last night?
Yeah.
You saw what Aaron Jones was able to do against that Detroit defense?
It was incredible.
And after week one, who was everybody rushing to the waiver wire to pick up on the running back position? Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
Exactly. Who did he play week one?
Yeah, he played the Lions.
He played Detroit. So, I think look for them to really kind of lean heavily on the run game this week. I think Tyson Williams is going to have a bit of a breakout game going into week 3. I could see them beginning to kind of lean on him a little bit more. So he's my big time snoozer for this week.
Love it. Cool. Now for your losers of the week. And Kyle, we'll go back to you on who do you think is your overall loser for the week?
Tyler Lockett. He's had long touchdowns in each of the last 2 games. DK's been almost non-existent with tons of targets still. I think this is the week DK feasts and Lockett disappears.
In typical Lockett fashion?
In typical Lockett fashion, yes.
2 and done, huh? Alrighty. Exactly. That is interesting. Tyler Lockett at Minnesota disappearing. Alrighty. Tony, who is your overall loser of the week?
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of maybe surprise a couple people, maybe not, but I'm gonna go with Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon this has bust written all over me this week. We had a great game week 1. I think he finished as RB1 week 1. Last week came crashing back down to earth, and he's going up against a very, very, very tough Pittsburgh defense, especially against the run, playing at home. This is going to be a defensive battle. I think Mixon's going to get his touches, but I would expect us to see something like 20 carries for 60 yards, maybe 1 or 2 catches for 10 yards, something like that. Just a very modest stat line. Might get a goal line touch possibly, but I don't really see him doing a whole lot this week. If you do like Mixon, you might want to wait through this week and then make an attempt to buy low on him. That may be a time to buy low. I'm not sure. Let me kind of see what his schedule looks like going forward. The schedule after this week kind of looks pretty good. Jacksonville, Green Bay, Detroit. So, it might be a good buy low opportunity after this week on Mixon. but I'm not playing him against that Pittsburgh defense, who, by the way, just came off that loss against the Raiders. So look for them to really kind of fight to get back on track again, playing at home. So Mixon, my loser.
Yep, I think that's a fair assessment. Not that it matters. All right, guys, that will conclude. That'll conclude this week's Snoozers.
Do I get to call penalties too?
No. All right, guys. Thanks for your opinions, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See ya.